Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Shafil Anbiya wal Mursaleen. Sayyidina Muhammadi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een. Amma ba'd. Fa'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Now, in last week's lesson, we were looking at verse 178 of Surah Baqarah, and I mentioned a few things with regards to qisas. And qisas, just in a nutshell, is basically where a person intentionally kills someone. He intentionally commits homicide, and the way he commits it is by intentionally with a weapon which is designed to kill, such as a knife, a dagger, a sword, a gun. So he uses these weapons to either shoot at someone, to stab someone, and not only that, he then stabs that person with something sharp, say on an area on his body where naturally or generally speaking he would have died because of the wounds. Sometimes obviously if you stab someone with a knife or you shoot someone in the legs, he could still survive. But obviously if you were to stab him around the chest area, around the stomach area, around the heart area, around the brain area, then generally speaking what would happen is that those wounds would cause that person's death and maut. So the Sharia says that if somebody does such an intentional homicide and killing, then the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that that person also has to get killed as well. So Allah says al-hurru bil-hurr, that a free person is killed in exchange for a free person. Wal-abdu bil-abd, and a slave is killed in exchange for a slave. Wal-untha bil-untha, and a female is killed in exchange for a female. Now from this particular verse, some may look at it and think that, okay, if a man, say for example, killed a woman, then there will be no qisas, because Allah says a man for a man, a woman for a woman. So some may think, okay, if it's vice versa, that if a man killed a woman or a woman killed a man, then there will be no qisas, there will be no even retaliation. Now the answer is that in Islam, if a man kills a woman or vice versa, that man or that woman would also be killed as well. So then that leads to a question, that why then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said al-hurru bil-hurr, i.e. a man for a man, al-untha bil-untha, a woman for a woman. Now the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put it in that particular tartib or under that tarz was so that to reject a kind of belief or a practice of the mushrikeen of Makkah in those days. Because what they would do in those days is that they would say that, if a man kills a woman, so they would say, woman, she's like nazuk, she's kamzor, she's weak. How can a man then get killed in exchange for a woman? Because obviously they would look at it, because remember in those days, they gave no rights to women. As mentioned in the Quranic as well, Quranic verses in the books of Seerah and history, that whenever a girl would be born, whenever a daughter would be born, they would have this kind of humiliation, the Arabs, the mushrikeen of Makkah. So what they would do is that they would take their daughters to the jungles, to the woods, and they would bury them alive. It's in the Quran, it's in the books of Hadith, it's in the books of Seerah and history, what they would do. So what would happen is that they would kill, just say a man in a fit of anger, in a fit of rage, he killed a woman. So then they would say that, ye kaise ho sakta, how can that be that, a man is getting killed in exchange for a woman? Look at a man, he's so strong, he's got like 6 packs and so on, he's so heavy, he could do this, he could do that. Whereas a woman naturally is weak, physically she's weak, so how can a man be killed in her exchange? And similarly, when he would come to a woman, Just say if a woman killed a man, then the people would say that, look at this woman, she killed a man. So what we want, so the man's family would then say that what we want is that we want this woman to be killed and also another woman from a family. Basically, we want 2 women to be killed in exchange for a man. So this was the zulm or the injustices which were taking place. And the reason they would say that is because, as I was saying, that they would think men to be very, very strong and powerful. So just say, for example, a woman, just say like a wife, she got angry with her husband. Sometimes it happens in domestic violences. So a woman, she gets a knife and she kills her husband. So the husband's family would then say to the woman's family that, okay, we want this woman to be killed, either wife, but also we want another female from your family to be killed as well. So either her sister or her mother also has to be killed. Why? Because 2 women should be in exchange for 1 man. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that this is not the case in Islam. You kill a person, you will be killed. There's no injustices in Islam that you kill somebody else but then somebody else is punished. Again, that was also very common in Arabia as well, that a father, say for example, he would kill someone. So because the father was, generally speaking, the breadwinner in the family, he would then say to the victim's family that, okay, do you know my young son, he's around 10 years old, you just kill him instead, because he's SAE, he doesn't do anything, so just kill him instead, I'm the breadwinner. Or sometimes there would be the eldest brother, he killed someone. So again, the eldest brother, because he's like the breadwinner, he's like the man of the household, he's going to take over the footsteps of the father. So the eldest brother would say that, oh, kill my youngest brother instead. So this was the kind of zulm and the injustices which were taking place. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that you're not allowed to do that. Okay, when a man is killed, a man kills someone, then that man would be killed. If a man kills a woman, that man would be killed. If a woman intentionally kills another man, then that woman would be killed. And isi tarah, that is the rule of the Sharia. Because remember, the laws of the Sharia, the laws of the Holy Quran, is based on what we call justice, adl. There's no zulm when it comes to the Holy Quran. There's no injustices in the Holy Quran. And that's why we can only become true believers when we believe in every single ayat of the Holy Quran and we act upon every single ayat and verse of the Holy Quran. I was explaining yesterday that there are some people, they will say, well, yeah, we act upon the Holy Quran, or that Sahaba were karte the, but we can't implement it in this day and age. You get some people, they'll say that, yeah, we believe in the Quran, we believe in Hadith, but it's difficult to act upon it in this day and age. Or Sahabas would do it, Sahaba karte the, but we can't do it in this day and age, it's too difficult for us. So that, my brothers, is not a sign of true Iman. That is a sign that our Iman is weak. If we were to say that, the Sahabas did it, but we can't do it in this day and age. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's laws, the Sharia law, is something which evolves all the time. So don't think that the Sharia laws or these rules which we are looking at is just for 1400 years ago. Every single era, every single generation, all the way until the day of judgment, the laws of the Sharia will apply. Now the next part of the verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then goes on to say, فَمَنْ عُفِيَ لَهُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ شَيْءٌ فَاتِّبَاءٌ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَأَدَاءٌ إِلَيْهِ بِإِحْسَانٍ. Which means that if, say for example, the victim's family are willing to forgive the killer and the murderer. Obviously the Sharia has got the rule that you kill someone intentionally, the killer, the qatil would have to be killed. But at the same time, there's a flexibility there. That just say for argument's sake, the victim's family, they want to forgive that person. Or they say to that person that, okay, we don't want you to be killed, but we want you to give us blood money, diyat, which is approximately 100 camels. Because remember, sometimes what happens is that obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created people differently. So there will be some people who, if any of their loved ones got killed, they will say, no, I want this person to be killed. But then there will be others who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them rifq, narmi in their heart, gentleness in their heart. So now, fair enough, somebody killed their family member, somebody killed their brother, somebody killed their father, and so on. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them tawfiq or talqeen of sabr. So they say to themselves, they do mashwara, and they say that, you know what, look, he made a mistake. Sometimes it happens that, or even though he used a gun or he used a knife or a dagger, but he's very remorseful, this killer, he made a mistake. Sometimes it happens like spur of the moment, anger just took over him. Sometimes it happens like you didn't really mean to do it, but spur of the moment anger, when you are really, really angry that this person did something to you, so you went and hit that person, or you went and struck him with a arrow or with a stick or something like that very powerfully, which caused his death. So sometimes it happens that there's qusur from a person, like with the example of Musa alayhi salam, that he just wanted to slap that person, just like push that person off. Everybody knows the story. But what happened, because he just like pushed him a bit hard and just punched him a bit hard, then that person died there and there. So what I'm trying to say is that sometimes it happens that a person may have killed somebody, but it was done, alright, fair enough, he may have used a knife or a gun or something like that, but he's very remorseful of his actions. So therefore there's that discretion there from the Sharia that, okay, that person, if the victim family agree, they could forgive him, but instead tell him to pay the blood money. Tell him to pay the amount equivalent to 100 camels. And one camel is worth a lot of money, around good 10,000-12,000 pounds. So it'll be like a good 120,000, actually more than that, it'll be close to £1 million, whatever. A lot of amount of money that person would have to pay. So if the killer is willing to pay that much amount of money, then the ayat goes on to say, فَاتِّبَاءٌ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَأَدَاءٌ إِلَيْهِ بِإِحْسَانٍ. فَاتِّبَاءٌ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ means that the family should pursue him in a good way. The victim's family should pursue him in a good way, i.e. they should ask him that, okay, you've agreed that you're going to pay, say, £100,000, so pay that properly, pursue him, not to like harass him, but ask him in a nice way that, look, you've agreed that you are going to pay this amount, then can you please pay it, the installments by this year or by this particular month. And also Allah says, وَأَدَاءٌ إِلَيْهِ بِإِحْسَانٍ, and also the killer, Ada, he should give this money bi-ihsan, in a good way. Because sometimes what happens, because remember this is like a debt now from the killer's side. The killer has to say, for example, pay £100,000. So that's like a debt. So it happens in this day and age as well, when it comes to debt, that people do what we call in Urdu tal motol. Tal motol means that, I'll pay next week, and next week comes and say, I'll pay next month. The next month comes then, or I'll pay 2 months later. And what say they just do tariq, the next month. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying to the killer that, look, you've agreed, look at your, you should think of it to be a great blessing from Allah that you would have got killed. But there was a discretion there. The family done ihsan upon you. They done a blessing upon you by sparing your life. You would have been, 6 foot down the grave. You would have been 6 foot down the earth. But they done ihsan upon you. They let you off. And you agreed and you said, okay, I'll pay you £100,000. So the family are going through difficulty. They're going through remorse and sorrow at the death of their son or their father or brother, jo bhi hai. Now at least do the decent thing and pay the money on time. Don't like say 1 week, or don't say next month and so on. Because then you're just putting more and more sorrow on the sorrow and the grief they are facing. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that ذَلِكَ تَخْفِيفٌ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ وَرَحْمَةٌ, that this is a relief from your Lord, وَرَحْمَةٌ, and mercy. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says فَمَنِ اعْتَدَى بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ فَلَهُ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ, which means that whoever exceeds after this, i'tada, ya'tadi means that whoever does zulm after this, whoever goes beyond the limits after this, then falahu adhabun alim, such a person there is humiliating punishment. Now what do I mean by if a person exceeds the limits? What does this mean? Now exceeding the limits here means that, just say for example, and sometimes this would happen, that the victim's family, they would say to the killer that, okay, pay us £100,000, we'll let you off. So then the killer, he would pay the £100,000, and as soon as the victim's family would take the £100,000, they would then go and kill the killer. They would go and kill him. Or, does that make sense? So this is like a form of zulm. Like, you said to him, you're going to spare his life, but he has to pay £100,000. So he works, he refinances his house or his business, he gets you £100,000, he gives it to you, then through deception and doka, what do? You go and kill that person. Or like sometimes what would happen is that the killer whose life just got spared, he then does zulm in terms of he doesn't pay at all. He says to the victim's family, I'll pay, and the next thing you know, he does a runner from there, he goes to another place and they can't trace him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that فَمَنِ اعْتَدَى بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ, that whoever does this kind of zulm, because this is like zulm, isn't it? Like, you promised him that you're going to pay this amount of money, or the killer promised that I'm going to pay this amount of money, or the victim's family promised that, yeah, you give us the money and we're going to let you off. But then you go against their word and you kill them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that, look, for these people, فَلَهُ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ, there is nothing except humiliating punishment. Humiliating punishment, obviously in the hereafter definitely, but also in this world, because those who do doka, those who deceive, and those who go against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's words, against the words of the people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's anger and wrath is upon them in this world as well. So they will get the punishment in the hereafter in terms of azab and punishment, but they will also get the punishment in this dunya and in this world as well. Now the next verse 179, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then goes on to say, وَلَكُمْ فِي الْقِصَاصِ حَيَاتُ يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, which means that there is life for you, or hayat for you, in qisas. So what I just explained, even retaliation, that you kill someone intentionally, then you will be killed. Allah says that there is a life in that. There is actually hayat in that. Now I was explaining before that a lot of people, non-Muslims, even Muslims as well, they will look at this ayat and they will say, how can there be life in qisas? Because in qisas you're actually killing someone, aren't you? So how is there life? Now this is the wisdom or the hikmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to tell us from here that qisas is a deterrent. This punishment is a deterrent for murders, for killing, for looting and then killing the people. This punishment is a deterrent. And if all the penal systems in the world, if they had this as a law, that you kill someone, you murder someone, you murder babies, you murder children, you murder teenagers or elderly pensioners, this will be your punishment, that you will be killed. You will see the rate of murder plummeting downwards in those countries. The reason why, say for example, there are so many murders around is because the punishment isn't that strict. You go to prison, but in prison it's just like a laugh there. You got your Sky televisions, you got your like gyms there, you got free food, you got canteen, it's just like nice bed, double bed, whatever. You just like relax, you got gym, you go outside, you play football. It's just like a stroll in the park. And obviously on good behavior you could commit a proper serious murder and then you'll be out within a few years. If you're in good behavior, they let you out after a few years. So then what happens is that then they come out and then they do the same killing again. They'll go after the person who put him into prison, and he just kind of continues. Then they'll go into prison again, they'll stay there for another few years, then they'll come out and then they'll do the exact same thing. So what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, that punishments should be severe. Allah doesn't like Allah doesn't like sins to be exposed. Sins should be done, like if somebody committed it, just like basically keep it within himself. If somebody committed zina, then just like man and woman, just like keep hush hush and then just let them do tawbah. So sins, that's why it's mentioned in hadith that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that the worst people in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mutahajirain. And then the Sahabas asked, who are mutahajirain? So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam replied by saying, mutahajirain are those who commit sins and then they boast about the sin. They commit sin, they commit zina, but then they boast about it. They go to brothels and so on, and then they boast that they went to brothels. Or they, loot somebody's house, or they mug a pensioner, or an old lady, or a mother with a baby. They mug her, they take a handbag, they take whatever, and then they boast about it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that these are the worst people. So since if somebody did it, it should be kept very, very discreet. That's why when it comes to zina or the punishment of zina or adultery, what does the Quran say? It has to be 4 witnesses. There has to be 4 witnesses. So if just one man just saw it, then you can't implement the punishment of zina, which is stoning to death. If it was 2 men saw it, again you can't implement it. 3 and 4. It's only when the 4th man, i.e. 4 people see it, only then the punishment will be implemented. Now even again, when you look at it, now you tell me, generally speaking, where is zina committed? If man and woman commit zina, they do it somewhere discreetly. Now if the man and the woman was so bad nasib, so badbakh, so evil, that they did it at such a place where 4 men clearly saw them, and so openly and blatantly committing this zina and this crime, what other punishment can you give them? If they just did it quietly, chupke, say in a room, or say in a hotel room, or in a room somewhere where the doors, everything was locked, and then afterwards Allah may give them tawfiq and hidayat. But when they do it so blatantly, openly, to the extent that 4 people clearly saw them, what other punishment can you give them? Except stoning to death and finishing them off. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that these punishment like qisas, even though people may argue and say this is barbaric, this is so strict and hard and harsh, killing someone, Allah says that no, having this punishment in an Islamic state is a deterrent. That's why when we look at all the Islamic states in the world, there are very few which they are, you'll find that murder rate is very, very less, very little. Obviously there may be 1 or 2 waqiyats where somebody may have committed murder or killed someone, but very, very little. Why? Because of this particular punishment. It's like, say for example, somebody was saying this in Saudi Arabia, that there was this person in Arabia. You get obviously a lot of Bangladeshi people, Pakistani people in Arabia working. You see them when you go for Umrah, Hajj, they do all the sweeping and all the other kind of jobs. So there was this person who was an immigrant. He was in Arabia, I'm not sure exactly where. But anyway, there was this woman who was calling him to zina. Basically, in even Arabia, Allah forbid, but there are all these kind of prostitutes and these kind of things in Arabia, in Saudi Arabia as well. So there was a woman calling this particular man to come and commit zina with her. Now this man, he actually said that I was thinking of going and committing zina, but then I realized that I'm in Arabia. I'm not in Bangladesh, I'm not in Pakistan, I'm not in India, I'm actually in Saudi Arabia. And he then feared that if I get caught, this will be the punishment. So what happened? He straight away said no to her and he went. So that's what I'm trying to say, a deterrent. If this punishment is always in a person's mind that if I commit zina, this is what will happen to me, then you automatically stay away from the sin. But obviously when that punishment isn't there, especially many of the countries where zina is not considered to be a crime anyway, so when it's not a crime, then you see that being openly done. Where murder is a crime but the punishment isn't that severe, you see murder openly done. And that's why we see many people, they'll say that, yeah, I don't mind, I'll go and kill this person, I'll take 10 years in prison, I don't care. So people, they have this attitude. So when people have this attitude that they are willing to go to prison for 5-10 years by killing, then what's going to happen is that the murder rate will always increase and increase and increase. And we shouldn't actually be that surprised by the way that there's so much killing and so much qatl going on, because obviously the brothers will know that there was a hadith I mentioned, one of the minor signs of Day of Judgment, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that there will be an increase of qatl. وَيَكْثُرَ الْقَتْلُ أَوْ كَمَا قَالَ عَلَيْهِ الصَّلَاةُ وَالسَّلَامُ, that there will be an increase of qatl and killing. These are one of the minor signs of Day of Judgment. And obviously whenever we put on the radio, the news, the televisions, when we're on the internet, there's always like stories on the side, or when we're on the Hotmail, there's always like, stories on the side, always kind of revolving that, there's been a killing here, there's been a shooting there, there's been a shooting at a school, there's been a shooting outside a pub, or there's been a knife attack, or there's been this, there's been that, there's been an abduction here, and so on and so forth. All these killings will always take place. Why? Because obviously one of the minor signs of Day of Judgment is obviously meant to happen, but also number two, when the punishment isn't that severe, then it will always increase the murder rate, the crime, and so on. So this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to say, that qisas, there is life in there, and it acts as a deterrent. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to act on what we said. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah.